All right, I think we're live, but there might be an ad or something here. I don't know. I didn't really actually select it for our live stream. But anyway, let's jump right into it. We have a great show for you guys today. This is Bryce. It's your boy, Bryce. Sorry, I've watched too many random things. I can never get to that level of YouTubery. But anyway, we've got some great people here talking Memories of Ice, arguably a lot of people's favorite in the Malazan Book of the Fallen. But as I've learned, even just today, it is not everybody's favorite. And so we got fighting words here today. We're gonna fight it out, which will be good. So without further ado, let's introduce some people here. Let's go with Kay because we'll just go nice order here.
Yeah, my name is Kayla. My channel is called Kay's Hidden Shelf. I read a lot of fantasy, some sci-fi. This is my first time through Malazan, and yeah, it's been interesting so far. Some highs, some lows, some confusion, a lot of confusion. That's actually most of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Sorry, Kaylee. Yeah, Kaylee.
I'm Kaylee. My channel's name is Kaylee's Books. I read all the genres, but I started out as primarily a fantasy reader, so still mostly read fantasy. And this was my first time through the series, and I agree with Kayla. Lots of confusion, but some good moments. I've been enjoying it, but I've yet to feel the same love for it that I think a lot of people feel towards this series. So I'm hoping that happens for me at some point and it just clicks in. But not to spoil my thoughts about this book before we get to it, but it's looking good for me for this book.
Awesome. And then Andrew, thank you.
I am Andrew of the Wizardly Reads. I read fantasy, sci-fi, historical fiction, you name it. If you sell me on your book, I'll probably read it. This is my I guess I've read the first two books twice, and then Memories of Ice once. So yeah, I've got thoughts, I've got opinions. They're probably unpopular.
Yeah, he's probably the wrongest, I think, of the bunch. So we'll
listen. Dead House Gates is perfection.
It is.
Mm.
It is.
And if I'm classifying that as perfection, how could Memories of Ice possibly top it?
That's fair. No, that's fair.
I mean, by definition. I'm just saying.
Right, exactly. Well, hello, Sarah. Thanks for joining us here. All right, I gotta go. This was my third time through. I was like, the more times I read Dead House Gates, the more I'm with you, Andrew, that it is perfection. Like, it is such a good book. It is. That's why in my review I called it, "Is this the best fantasy book of all time?" Because I might be thinking that. I hedge my bets a little bit. I am a lawyer. You always got to lawyer things up. But then reading Memories of Ice, I was like, oh my gosh, I remember all these things that I love. And so definitely huge fan. And I think this still, I don't know, I'd say whatever Malazan I'm reading at the moment is my favorite, frankly. But Memories of Ice might be my favorite again. Back to the favorite. I just love it. I don't know. We already kind of had some chatting before this, and I maybe just jump right into it because I have some structure to this, but we don't have to be. I'm trying to be like Kaylee and Kay, who actually like brought some structure. We haven't been to yours yet, Andrew. We'll see where the structure lands there. But I don't know why I'm giving you a hard time. I'm like such a jerk today.
You're fine.
You haven't said Gabby yet, and I am still being a jerk to you. No.
You know what, Gabby? I will always forgive you, my friend. You were the gabbiest Gabby to ever Gabby.
Yeah, I'm gabbing all over the place right now. Anyway, we were on a live stream before, and there's a side character that's like, I don't know, bubbly and stuff, and her name was Gabby, so I became the Gabby. If anyone wants to know, but yeah, that's where I love the cartoonish aspects of this. And I'm very curious about your thoughts on like Midnight Tides coming up, because there's definitely going to be some of that. on everyone's thoughts, obviously. But and there's the cartoonish places in Malazan, like even in the perfection that is Dead House Gates. You've got Iskerl Pust is just a walking cartoon almost, in my head at least. He's so funny.
I mean, he's insane.
Exactly. and
he speaks his internal thoughts out loud and doesn't comprehend that people can hear him.
And then is like, why would you even think that? Like, he gaslights all over the place. All right. Okay, so I kind of had just a little bit of thoughts, and we'll get into maybe some more of that. But what are you thinking, Kay? Who's like what? And this is just in the spoiler-free portion. We'll stick to that for now, and then we'll get into some spoilers probably very quickly. But like, just in what you can say as a spoiler-free, what kind of stuck out to you in this book?
Well, my brain feels a little melted. I feel like this should have been 2 books, personally. There was a lot that went on in here, and I realized that there was a lot of connections being made, a lot of buildup that happens. You're seeing a lot of dense character arcs with it too. There was a lot to it. I I mean, overall, my thoughts were I enjoyed it, but because of how dense it was harder to follow along and keep track of all the details, because by the time let's put it this way, by the time I finished the book and I went back to review my notes, I was like, "Wait, no, wasn't that Dead House Gates? No, no, it was actually in this book. It was just feels like it happened so long ago." So, I feel like this book is probably, for me, maybe it's better read over the course of a month or 2, but there's just so much that happens into it, and you need to be a note taker. There was one line that I ended up highlighting, and it was the cheesiest, cartooniest line in it, but I feel like I needed the cartoony stuff to help break up all the dense parts of it.
Oh yeah, well, great, yeah, and I mean I totally agree with you there, because I remember being like, I don't know why it surprises me now. I'm the 3rd time through, and it still is like we're not even halfway through, and we're reaching this just insanely huge event, and I don't think that's too much to spoil, but it's just crazy. So yeah, I fully agree with you there. Kaylee, same question. Anything that kind of like stuck out to you, or like what overall maybe your feelings, like last time I thought you did it, like I thought it was good that you were kind of like, well, where your rating on this if you have one? I thought that was great.
This is my favorite so far. I have been enjoying the other books, but they both got 3 stars. So like there's enjoyment, but there is also a lot of things that weren't working for me, where this book got 4 stars. So still not a perfect book for me, but I enjoyed it more so than the first 2 in the series. And I think I was just really able to grab hold of Paran, however you say his name, him and Silver Fox and the Mybe and like that, and Whiskey Jack, like all of those characters' plot lines throughout, I was able to follow and appreciate and care about much more so than in other books. And there were definitely still moments of the plot where I think I struggled with a bit, and I don't think I fully grasped the implications of what was going on. But there was enough that I cared about and was able to grab hold of in this book that I liked it. I really liked it. Hello.
Thank you. Andrew, what does your daughter have to say about Memories Book?
She's got a nice temper tantrum that she just threw, which is why she's here. Because I said no, go back downstairs, and then that proceeded to a meltdown. She
was
thinks,
born for the screen.
yeah, she shares my opinions, where this so far of the first 3 is probably my least favorite. But if I do have to praise it,
no, you don't have to praise it. You say whatever you want. That's
no, because I do want to praise. I remember distinctly one of the things that I loved about this book was the way it was able to tie back into the prologue. Like the way the prologue happens, where like it drops you in, you were completely confused about like what is going on. And then by the end, you're just like, oh my God, like it all of a sudden like makes perfect sense. And that I really liked. Now, I do feel there are some cartoonish elements just throughout the entire story. Some storylines I felt were a little drawn out, such as I'm going to get the names wrong, But Silver Fox's mother, like that storyline went a bit long for me. I liked the way it resolved, but again, it was a bit long in the tooth. The whole story of Whiskey Jack, like I like Whiskey Jack's story, but we're gonna avoid spoilers.
Right after this, right after I say my
right after this, I'll give you my thoughts right after.
Spoiler.
But there are a lot of good elements. I felt like I forget his name. There's a caravan of people, and he ends up becoming this awesome warrior. But from where he starts to where he ends feels like two completely different characters. Like I don't see like when I first envisioned him, I thought he was fat. I thought he was sloppy. I didn't like the way he read on the page to me. Yeah. I didn't see him being this muscular, amazing swordsman. And then when he turns into that, I felt confusion.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of confusion, but I'm excited to dig into House of Chains when we get to it. So.
Yeah. And so on my third read, it definitely helped. I was actually dreading the Maybe parts, and I actually enjoyed it a lot, and I felt for her deeply this time, whereas before I remember just being like, all right, let's get through this. Where's Gruntle? Where are the Marines? But yeah, there were, lots of things, gosh, a lot of things stuck out to me, but and mostly in the characters, and I absolutely love them. And just that this isn't really the Marines, I think, kind of pull the humor along a bit, and then but this is a book filled with just really, I don't know, tragic things and rough things to take. It is like over and over and over again. Not the least of which I think was well placed in that very dark joke right there. So thank you, Eric. But anyway, yeah, let's get into spoilers. Hello, and I like this here. Yeah, Philip is exactly right, and definitely check out Philip Chase and AP Canavan's channels if you want like the most ridiculous breakdowns on Malazan, or Malazan if you want to pronounce it right.
AP's not here. You don't have to be correct.
I can't help myself. My favorite joke is to write in the comment section, no, it's pronounced Malazan, which nobody's pronouncing. I still find that funny because I am a dad and I like dad jokes.
Yeah.
So okay, let's make this spoiler here. Let's jump into the spoilers. Anyone maybe jumping into your confusion here, right? Like you kind of had again, very common how that works in Malazan. Was there anything that was like less confusing?
So, well, there were storylines that I did really enjoy. The Maybe Quick Ben, actually, I really enjoyed his story and what happened with him. Pran, whoever. Yes. I did enjoy their storylines. I think when it got to, I might have been trying to focus too much on the deeper lores and the history because of that prologue and how it all kind of comes together at the end, and the story of the gods and everything that goes on with that. I was trying to keep track of all of that in addition to the story arcs, which was very confusing in the end, trying to keep it all together. I think the story arcs on their own were really well done. I'm really intrigued with what happened with the Maybe and Silver Fox, their relationship, and how they all kind of how it all worked out in the end. Quick Ben, I'm coming to love his character for his his nickname, Quick Ben. How quickly he thinks, what he gets himself into, and he's just like, yeah, okay, no, don't worry. What did you hear? That's false. Like, I'll just take care of that. That's no problem. People have tried for the past 300,000 years. I got this, and then what happens with Pran, whatever his name is.
Yeah. Not even the right way. The audiobooks pronounce it like Ganois.
Yeah.
It's Quran.
So yeah, what ended up happening with his arc I was really trying to follow, and I ended up really enjoying that as well. The confusing part again was just the lore. Trying to keep track of the deeper lore in addition to all of the events that are going on and the story arcs and like you said, those tragic moments, I'd be trugging along fine and okay, I think I'm getting there and finally grasping something, then it would switch and someone's having a tragic moment. I'm like, no, no, I was there. I was I was so close to understanding. Now I'm just like emotionally distraught. Thank you.
You just got to surrender and let the lore happen.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quick bend scenes is the Balcalane and Corwell brooch, where the Balcalane goes, "I'll not deny I am impressed by your mastery of 6 warrens, but you should have held back at least half." And then Quick Ben's like, "I did."
Yeah.
Like, mic drop.
Yeah, he's definitely got that ego-esque confidence going on.
Yes. Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Hello, Johanna. Yes. Oh gosh, it's so true. Yep.
Yeah.
So thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Kaylee, what about you? What are you thinking? What kind of stood out to you? Even like particular characters? I thought, yeah, the same thing with Kay. Like the Mybe, like the first time I just did not like it, but then this time I really was like powerful with her like body is just crumbling to her daughter.
Yeah, I found that really emotional actually. And having a child and having your youth stripped away for the child to be able to grow and then having that distance from the child where you don't even feel that attachment and feel resentment instead. I mean, I don't have a child, but even someone that is not a mother reading about this, I was like, oh my gosh, it was affecting me. I was very feeling for both of the characters. And then also I think like some of this has been happening in other books too, but I appreciated some of the parallels between Huron and Tattersail trying to maintain their individuality with this possible ascendancy, possible other people in the body with them, like trying to maintain their individual personalities and individual motivations without being influenced from these external factors and these magnificent, epic, godlike motivations versus the individual human motivations. I don't know. I was finding that really interesting throughout the book as well. And then this is a bit silly, but I have this thing on my channel where I'm like, I always want to read more books about cannibalism because I feel like it's not utilized often enough in books. And so I was incredibly excited to see the cannibalism in the book. It was really scary. And I think cannibalism is a great way to be horrified at things. And so, yeah, I was having, and I don't know, is it weird to say I was having a fun time reading about the cannibalism? But I was having a fun time reading about the cannibalism because it's just
so specific.
Yeah.
Right?
I read a lot of horror books too, and I felt like that was itching the scratch of the part of me that loves horror books. And so, yeah, I was having a great time with that.
Oh man! And then it at the pinnacle of when they're in the throne room or whatever in Capistan, and they've got the prince, and they're just chowing down. I guess it's it just evokes so many feelings of it's so scary to me. Anyway, I just was absolutely horrified.
Yeah, horrifying. And it just gave you the chills in the best way possible. And so while I do not condone the action, of course, I like
some reason we have to clarify that these days. Andrew, what about you? What are you what are the things I know that you're kind of recalling and that you're just again standing out? And you talked about the cartoon nature. I want dive in. What this is all spoilers.
So I mean, we've got Joanna in the chat, and Joanna's challenged me on this before. But back when I was reading this, I was still in a specific mindset that if it didn't make sense from a realistic standpoint, I wasn't enjoying it because I didn't do a reread. Mainly, I didn't want to DNF the series. Because there are so many plot lines, so many sections going on in Memories of Ice that I think the themes and the execution is fantastic. Well, I think the themes are fantastic, but I think the execution is overlong. The Mybe, it just constantly, whenever we come back to the Mybe, what's going on? She's continuing to be drained. She's continuing to suffer. Okay, great. We're gonna leave the Mybe. Okay, when we come back to the Mybe, what's happening? Oh, she's continuing to be drained. She's continuing to suffer. Oh, but don't worry, now she's bitter. Like it's like okay, I get it. The Bushelane and Cordelin brooch, like okay, I didn't see how they fit into the story really at all. You could kind of remove them mostly from the story. Going off memory, not a whole lot would change, other than the fact that they got Old Boy involved. So like they did one thing. I did like finding out what finally happened to Talk the Younger.
Right.
But again, over long. Like it's like, okay, let's go on a trek from Lord of the Rings and just walk this direction until you get to the end and get tortured. But don't worry, you get reincarnated at the end. It's like, okay. And then the Whiskey Jack death was stupid. It was dumb. He's had like months, weeks to get his leg healed by quick bend, which takes 10 minutes. You're going to tell me nobody snuck into his tent late at night and just healed him while he was sleeping? Like, he didn't sleep ever, but, it's whatever. I like that romance, though, that Whiskey Jack gets into with the, what's the race? Tista Andy?
Andy, yep.
Yeah, the Tista Andy romance between Whiskey Jack and her. I really enjoyed those. So it's got stuff that I like, but at the same, like obviously it's been 200 books since I read this, and I remember events more than I remember specific names and places and stuff like that. So it's stuck with me. So if we're gonna say something, did I DNF the series at Memories of Ice last time? Yes, but I remember a lot of the events, and so that's got to count for something in the book's favor.
Absolutely. And I think that's one thing that I've always taken away from Malazan is like I can come back and years later and I've still remembered a lot, and that doesn't happen with a lot of series for me, frankly. I forget a lot of stuff, and these are almost every main thing that happened. It's like, oh yeah, I remember this. I remember all the emotions I felt. I remember being crushed. I do think Balcolain and Corbel Brooch it was almost like to it is a little bit kind of to be silly, but to also kind of be like, hey, we've got these side series of their kind of small novellas, right? That you can go like almost just to like introduce them into the series and be like, all right, go follow them elsewhere. But yeah, I like when you mention Whiskey Jack, that's one that I think seen through the eyes of like Corlott, who, I mean, how many years of again, we're talking hundreds of thousands of years have the Tistiani been on the earth. I feel like they're very noble people, right? Like Rake will get, like, he's going to do the right thing for the right sake. Do you understand him fully? Probably not. But you do feel like, I mean, even the Malazans understood in Gardens of the Moon that Rake was going to do the right thing and try to protect a bunch of people. That's why they knew that they could just get a Jagat tyrant out there, and Rake was going to stand up to him instead of just getting out of Dodge. So they kind of rely on that. And then just to see Corlott or Whiskey Jack through Corlott's eyes, that's one of those really powerful things. He's the Ned Stark, I feel like, though, of Malazan, right? Almost like too honorable, right? And like, and I think that's where it's getting into that. And again, this is maybe just because I've argued my own, because I think that's fair enough what Andrew's saying, right? As far as he could have been healed at any point, sure, absolutely. But that is also very much in character for Whiskey Jack to not get healed, to make sure everybody else was concerned or was taken care of first, for him to be the last. And that's because that's how he leads. That's why last scene, and again, that was a big reveal, I felt like, in this, was last scene wasn't going after the bridge burners in Pale. She was going after Whiskey Jack. And then to see almost like, and then you kind of have that conversation with Whiskey Jack and Dujek about Dujek going, no, Whiskey Jack, you're the important one to the army. Like, everyone knows you're the one that needs to survive this and make it on to the next thing. Even last scene, right? And where this series is like always like, are the bad guys bad? Are they that bad? It's always, it's never what you think. And Lacine especially, like, you hate her for what she's doing. And then you have here a couple times where it's specifically noted that, well, maybe her dealing with the nobles actually, even Ganos Perrin is talking about maybe that, the way that she dealt with the nobles was the right way, because we have a military that can actually get things done instead of a bunch of nobles who, Ganos is mentioning, like, I could be a high fist by now, probably just because of my lineage, and going, maybe that's not right. That wouldn't have been the good thing for the army. But yeah, talk the younger. I see my biggest thing is I am a huge Segula stan. I am all about the Segula. I think it's, and again, one of those things that you're like, it's serious in that the Segula take it 100% serious, but the fact that they have a punitive army for the mainland of 3 people. Like, I love that idea. It's just insane, but it's so crazy. And then you see these people like battling it out and just going crazy. But then you got Lady Envy and her like flirting with Talk the Younger, and Talk's like going, what are you doing? Anyway, it's just so many things going on. I could keep going. There are just so many things that stick out to me. Like Talk the Younger, and where we kind of start learning like the crippled god likes his broken things and ugly things, as maybe they consider themselves, because that's what Talk is saying. And then you have that challenged by, like, sorry, I'm too loud here. Challenged by Lady Envy, who's hitting on him. Anyway, sorry, I could keep going. I have some more prompts, but did anyone else have anything that's just random? And I can throw. Sorry, here we go. Oh man,
Well,
Matron just loved to talk so much, right?
Vignesh had like Tool coming for Talk at the end, and saving him, or at least the essence of what he is. And I loved how the Onas Tulan, that's Tool's name. Oh crap, I'm forgetting everything. But I like how they became human again.
Yeah,
I liked how like they ended the ritual and they came back.
Yeah. And not in the way that you thought, or maybe it was kind of set up to be, right?
Right.
Like Silver Fox was denying them.
Yeah.
And that was
they just wanted to fade into existence, and she was like, "No, we're just gonna, you're all mortal again."
Yeah. And I thought, the more I've thought about it, because I was always like, I remember first reading it being like, but they need them. They need them. The Panion. What's going on? But it's, I don't know. And how many things have you all read that's like, if you don't get the thing done, sometimes it slips away, right? The thing that you've always wanted. And this is the thing they wanted more than anything for how many years? And yes, it may only be a couple extra months, or maybe even just a couple extra days to just help out these people. But when the thing that you've been striving for 100,000 years or more is right there in your hands, it's definitely like take advantage, right? Take advantage of the thing that's there.
One thing that I just recalled that this is going to be a critique is Animander Rake just kind of pisses off, and then like he doesn't tell anybody the plan, and then just the thing happens, and you're just like, okay, so you're more like you're going to just show me an awesome thing, but I'm going to be confused on why this is happening. And I think that's just Animander Rake, like, because he's so old, he's just not going to explain anything. Like, he's not going to hold your hand for it. But narratively, it would be nice to know the thought process or the ideas behind the choice of crashing the and again, I forget what it's called, the
Moonspawn
fortress.
Yeah,
just crashing it into the Panion Seer, or it's not Panion Seer, but into the fortress.
Yeah. No, that's right. Yeah. No, that's one of those, and why, the Malazans have then their own kind of backup plan, that they start secretly pulling people away during the night and diminishing their army, while that's going on. I like what, Philip Chase here says, yes, especially Orb Scepter Throne, if you like Segula, that is your book. And it was a favorite of mine. Yeah. What about we've kind of gone over favorite characters and whatnot. I'm like, and this is a weird way to put it, I know, but I thought it was kind of funny. But what is your favorite tragedy in this book? Is there a favorite or is there a least favorite?
I want to say White Wolf. Am I getting that right? When he transitions fully and becomes almost like this champion of one of the gods.
Oh yeah.
And then his love interest is just kind of shattered, and he's just like, he didn't want this and he has to settle into it.
Yeah. Grundle for Drake.
Yeah, Grundle.
Yeah.
And then I feel like there was a hint of something in Memories of Ice that death is not final.
Mhm.
A character comes back. You're not told. You have to catch it. But it's somebody who died in Deadhouse Gates. And when he came back, I thought I had caught an Easter egg. So I sat there and I reread it. I remember sitting there rereading it 4 or 5 times going, oh, this is the Fang. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if Kay or Kaylee caught it.
I was going to say, yeah.
I don't think. No.
It's really quick. It's a nod that
yeah.
somebody is serving Hood. Somebody has come back and is serving Hood.
Oh.
Yeah.
And it's what's his name from Deadhouse Gates who dies by being burned alive.
Hmm.
And
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I completely missed that.
Yeah, that went over my head.
I think Andrew's talking about a different one, Eric. There's the epilogue at the bar.
Hmm.
Did you catch who that was?
Oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember. There's so much that happens in this. So when you're like nitpicking things, it's like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you hear that? It's great. Yeah. Diker.
Yes. Yes,
okay.
I did catch that.
Or Duick or whatever you want to call him.
I was excited about that one because I really like Diker in Deadhouse Gates. So I was like, yes.
Because remember, Coltrane wouldn't take the little like resurrection vial, right?
Yeah.
Gave it to Diker, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
So set it all up. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's so crazy. Oh, yep. There you go. So that's what the other one is. This one was such a subtle thing. I think I ended up having to look it up. Like it wasn't like, I
remember distinctly going, I know who this is.
Bowden or whatever. Bowden.
Yeah, Bowden. Yeah, he comes back in this book as a servant of Hood.
Yeah.
Ooh,
and
okay,
it starts
I didn't
to
recognize
reveals if you look at either the glossary or the dramatist persona, I forget which one it's in, but going forward, then you see his name start popping up under the Deck of Dragons cards. So it's like crazy.
Well, and it makes me think that, if I'm going to theorize, Whiskey Jack will return.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen the last of Whiskey Jack.
I know, right?
Will he have his broken leg? That's my question.
I hate that broken leg. I hate that broken leg so much.
He's going to be resurrected with it.
Yeah, the broken leg part didn't bother me throughout, but I did think it was a little bit weird, but I think Bryce's comparison to Ned Stark is such an accurate comparison for me, where it's like you just want to shake them a little bit each time when you stop, but it's just such in my opinion, it was such a central part of his characterization to not take good care of himself and take good care of everyone around him.
It took no effort for him to take care of himself.
No,
somebody could have done it. He could have been like, hey, I'm gonna go power nap, come heal my leg.
Yeah, I totally get it. I feel like I'm seeing it more in a metaphoric way where he has a broken leg and he doesn't take care of that leg because he takes care of everyone else's broken limbs and stuff. But yeah, on a realistic point, that's dumb. But I think I saw it more as a metaphoric way to explain who he was as a character. And talking about Whiskey Jack, that was my most tragic moment because I was so sad that he died. And I didn't see it coming either. I thought he was going to be someone throughout the whole series, and then he died. And then I think
he Ned Starks you.
Yeah, and Silver Fox mentions oh my god, even Silver Fox I think is kind of surprised that Whiskey Jack defended Silver Fox with his life and everything. And I was just so into Whiskey Jack the whole time. And you were mentioning earlier, Bryce, about his little romance, and I was so into the romance too. I think this was such a small moment of the book, like not even that significant, but the conversation was one of my favorite conversations in the book. When I think his romantic interest, I'm blanking on the name right now, but he mentions like, oh yeah, because my kind live we're so take care of each other. And then Whiskey Jack is like, yeah, humans do that too. That's not an excuse, for you to not be caring about each other. Like humans also do that, and yet we still are at fault when we're being like not caring enough. So I just liked the positive influence that both of them had over each other, and how his human level of morality was kind of affecting her long time standing beliefs of what was okay and normal and what wasn't okay and normal. So I liked that. And I loved the give and take of the trust in their relationship too, when they were both holding stuff back from each other. And then they were having the conversations later on about why they felt the need to hold like information from each other. I really liked all of their small conversations throughout the book, even though those weren't like major plot moments, but I just had a good time with them the whole time.
It's such a realistic thing, right? I mean, in any relationship you hold some things back. Not only, and it's not always your fault, right? Like, I mean, this is like a secret, like a huge secret. You can't let this secret get out, which, I mean, kind of is silly, but when you really think about it, because it's like, oh, the Malazans are, they've been kicked out, or these guys have been kicked out of the Empire, and secretly they're back in. And, it's not too hard to like come up with that, but he like couldn't reveal that, but it is, and them kind of forgiving each other for being real, for being, I guess, human, even though I guess she's not. But it was like, I remember Kay last week kind of pointing out, like some of these things will just happen. Like Keneb, right, was just gone, and you're just like, oh, he's gone. And like Whiskey Jack was one of those where you're just like, what? He's what? And it's like very final about like, oh, and he's dead. Like, it's not just like, sometimes where I've learned in this series and in others, but this series especially is like, unless it says they're dead, they are not dead. And it was almost like it was very quick to just be like, and he's definitely dead. There's no question.
Yeah, I think after our conversation last week, my expectations got a little bit tempered. So when Whiskey Jack died, I was like, oh, yeah, you know what? I should have seen that coming, because he was such a big plot point and everyone had their hopes and their just everything on his shoulders, that I should have just seen he was going to get wiped off the board. And yeah, in terms of the most tragic one for me, it's the Mybi was tragic. There was a lot of tragic moments in this, but the one that actually caught me off guard and has stuck with me was actually Stony. I did not expect that in the battle.
Oh yeah.
Not at all. And oh yeah, just how she even explains where, I understand war is not supposed to be fair, but at least I expected to be treated like an equal warrior. Like that just crushed me.
That was huge. And you see Gruntel's reaction to that.
Yep.
Is that when they just all get blasted? Well, just immediately eradicated?
It's like when Gruntel and Stony kind of finally are reunited, and then and he like learns of this, and it's where it kind of starts this like stand where he's like, I will protect this place against anything. You go recover as long as you need. I will give it to you. But I think so. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was just one of those things where, when you are reading a fantasy story with a lot of war and tragedy in it, that's not the kind of tragedy that comes to mind when you're going through the books, right? Like things happen, obviously, but that one I was like, whoa, okay, that got a little too real for me there for a fantasy story and being taken away into a different world, right?
Yeah. Did you guys, were you surprised at the Tayshrin reveal?
Remind me of that.
Yeah.
So,
remind me of the Tayshrin reveal.
He's essentially been there the whole time, right? As like Artanthos, or I'm sorry if I'm messing the name up, but he's just been like a servant, kind of hanging around. But they know like Dujek in one arm, or Dujek in one arm, Dujek and Whiskey Jack are aware that like someone from the Emperor is in there kind of spying on him, but they don't know who or what. But it ends up being like it's when Whiskey Jack gets killed by Caller, and then Tayshun kind of finally reveals himself and is like, and kind of helps out.
Yeah, I remember that now, and I don't think that impacted me that much, and that's why I didn't initially remember it. I think I was just like, okay, makes sense. But yeah, I don't know, didn't hit me that hard. But
I just anyway, I know that's one of the things I thought was interesting, where we get some backstory on the bridge burners, right? When they are kind of forged through chasing, Quick Ben amongst others, through the desert of Raraku on Seven Cities, right? Did that kind of, I don't know, did that do anything for you? Is that something that was like, oh, this is kind of interesting? Did it tell you anything?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, for me, it really just served to show like how kind of a group the bridge burners are. I think that backstory added to the point where there is like another like tiny moment, but when someone told Piran like, hey, you don't have to worry about getting your back stabbed anymore, you're part of us. And then at the very end he gets called a bridge burner for like the first time, and I think I think the backstory just served to make those Piran moments better for me. And so I loved Piran throughout this whole story.
I've liked Piran since Dead House Gates. At least this time through. The first time through, I didn't understand what the fuss was about. This time, I've really liked Piran.
I like Piran's character. I think in terms of the bridge burners, the backstory definitely helped, especially when they started talking. Like even throughout the story, they're like, I don't know what's happened to the other ones. I hope they're okay. Haven't heard from Diker. Hope he's okay. Like they just keep having those thoughts. They're thinking about these other members that have just gone off and they have no word from, and they're just praying, hoping that they're doing okay and surviving the best they can. So
Absolutely. One of the things, there was a quote that stood out to me yet again this time. And remember when it's Lannis Tog. I have notes open, so I'm cheating here a little bit because I couldn't remember who it was. But she runs into Lady Envy, and Lannis Tog is kind of talking about, Onus Tulan was the one saying we shouldn't have done the ritual, right, as the Talanai Mas. And but he went along with it because that was essentially the vote, right? That was what was voted on. And I love the line because Lady Envy kind of was like, so you guys hate him? And Lannis Tog goes, hate him? No, of course I disagreed. We all did. And so he acquiesced. It's a common belief. And then Lady Envy goes, what? The truth is proved by weight of numbers, that what the many believe to be right must be so. When I see Onus Tulan once more, I will tell him he was the one who was right. I thought that was really cool, really powerful.
Yeah.
Like the one can stand apart and they could still be right. They may be up against everyone. I just thought that was really cool. Like just a good line. Some of these good lines.
It's a good analogy because, everybody used to believe that the earth was the center of the universe until somebody stood apart and said, no, you're wrong. And then he had to prove it. And time reveals all.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of favorite quotes, I think, Kaylee, you mentioned it earlier, but the line about compassion, humanity and compassion at the end, that one really stood out to me. Funny enough, that's not the one I marked in my book. I marked a insult directed at Crupper, but the block of cheesy lard.
Oh, that was one too. I did too. I was dying laughing.
I like, this is gonna be dumb. I liked Cruppa all of a sudden just getting it, and he was just like, I don't want you, and she's like, I don't care. And so basically he becomes this stud for her own personal use, and it's kind of messed up, but it's hilarious to see it happen at the same time.
And I don't think he's too against it, right? Like I don't think he's
it's like, oh no,
he's Cruppa or whatever. He takes everything, and it's like, oh, I would hate that.
But I also liked with Crupper, whatever his name is, that he wasn't as silly this time around, especially with Silver Fox and the Mybi. He had a lot more compassion in this, and he still had his silly self throughout this, especially when he's getting insulted for his cheesy lardness. But the amount of compassion that he showed for others, I think, despite all of the fronts that he's been putting on, felt really genuine.
Yeah, I felt like he was a little off his game. It wasn't.
Yeah.
He was pulled off like quite often. It's so cute. Oh man, yeah, but because that's not Kruppa, he's not off his game. He's the one in control, and that was you kind of more revealed on like something in Gardens of the Moon in Darujistan was kind of pulling all the threads in the right direction the whole time. And it's like it's him, and again, I love the like prestige, the like this outward face when and you such commitment to this outwardness, and you're really like inside this other whole thing, different thing is going on. Let's see, I got a couple more I wanted to ask you guys about. Let's see, Ikovian is one of those that stands out for me in this series, where almost like, and again, I'm not trying to get into like religion or anything, but like a Jesus Christ type character, like he's redeeming all the souls, right? And but he's very much mortal, right? And he's and I think there's a lot of this like I don't know, back and forth of just gods versus mortals, right? That's kind of a lot of what a lot of these books have been so far, right? Is like, can we really trust the gods? Like I can put my faith in like these mortals almost better.
Yeah, I've really liked the discussion about the gods versus mortals. I always love when there's like cool gods in my fantasy books, and I really like religion in my fantasy books. And so it's been really interesting to see that a lot of these gods are terrible and unreliable and like are so distanced from like the day-to-day events of these characters that it seems like having a god's power behind you is not a positive thing, and in fact is detrimental to the character's ability to do anything, where in most other fantasy books I feel like having a god's power behind you, that's incredible. That means you're one of the like most powerful, capable characters in the story. And so I've really enjoyed the kind of flipping around in this book of the power that a human has just being a human versus
Right.
the potential power of the god or the ascended or all the different names that are in between human and god.
And still have that duty to be compassionate, to look out for your fellow, right? To be kind, even. I mean, which is crazy in a book like this, that just the nuttiest people are eating each other.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think in this series, I'm the same as you, Kaylee. I love gods and books and how authors twist the gods to certain ways, but this felt different for the reason that if you're going to be asking for a god to be behind you, they're either gone, they're insane, or they're out to get you. Like there's a no-win situation with the gods behind you, it felt like. And if there is down the line, I feel like that is a very small spark of hope in godhood in this series. But yeah, the insanity line for the gods seems to be a very continuous streak so far.
Yeah, and you have like, I mean, and we learned in the last last book in Deadhouse Gates that like Fenner was pulled down, right? To whatever, become mortal. And then you have here where like Treach is like coming up. So you can kind of see how the books like Deadhouse Gates and Memories of Ice are kind of happening all at one time. Like events wise, right? I just thought that was really well set up, and it kind of had to, to show us, and then again to show Ikovian going, I'm still going to take these souls on, right? I'm still, and that crushed like Anaster, right? The head of the Tenescowry, the mob of cannibals, and it like, and he like was afraid of Ikovian because Ikovian is there to help. And it's like, but he makes up his whole being based on his what is it, like his I don't know, lack of of being, almost his just how miserable he is almost, and it's like Ikovian's trying to relieve him of that, but he like makes his whole way about that, and I think that's pretty powerful, because how many times, I don't know, again, do we as humans, you almost, I don't know, there's at least points in my life where it's like I've had rough times, and you just are down on yourself, and it almost is like becomes your personality, and you have people around you that are good friends that are just, and again, I think you see the good friends that are there to be there for you, and again, maybe not push you to do anything. But anyway, those are just kind of thoughts that this all brings out in me. I'm not trying to get too personal or anything. Don't feel like you need to or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I was thinking, like, after we were talking about the gods and the humans, like, there's a literal puppet in book one, and so Erikson's through lines throughout all of these books, and the themes of like humans being puppets for the gods, and there's a literal human puppet in in book one. It's just so cool to see.
Yeah, in terms of taking on the hardships and the griefs of these souls, I think I was more amazed at the willingness to do it, first of all, and then just be there.
Mhm.
Overall, I became more interested in that character. I can't pronounce the name. Ikovit, whatever
I always said
name.
Ikovian. I know that's. I know.
Okay.
I don't know.
I became
Audio
more.
again. I go with the audio.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it seems like the safe rule.
But the audio also pronounces it Malazan, and so we all know that's wrong. So what's right? I don't know.
Potato,
Yeah.
potato. But yeah, I became more interested in that character later on when I think it's they let go of the souls, they release them, and they have that conversation about compassion and what that means, and all of that. I think that's where it more impacted me, more than the Anna cast or cannibal guy,
Right. 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 I loved one of the things I loved in this is kind of just, the motto of the bridge burners kind of sticks out to me: the first in, last out. And I always, just in being in different jobs in my life, I've had those kind of leaders in my life, and then I've had like managers. And that always kind of has stuck out to me, where like a leader, I feel like, is that first in, last out. They're going to be there. They're going to have your back. And even just in a regular job, I had a customer service job, right? And there, I saw leaders there that were, would be the first to have your back when a crazy customer was being crazy, and then you had managers that were like, I am never available, don't ever talk to me, like don't ever like I will never ever reveal your or help you out in a bad situation, pretty much, and I like that idea of, and Whiskey Jack, I feel like really does embody that. Is like, and again, because Andrew's not here, and I can make all the arguments in the world, and he can't even rebut it.
Andrew, pop in the live chat.
But anyway, yeah, I feel like, again, I think absolutely, he's right for sure on that. But at the same time, it is definitely in Whiskey Jack's character, and in kind of some of these, just because he's the ultimate leader, the leader that will do everything and back up his people and is not looking out for himself. And that's again why, you have this idea of, throughout this book, I felt like it came up a couple times, like with Gruntle and Gano's parent talking, where it's like, Gruntel's like, I don't know why he chose me. I'm not faithful. I'm terrible. I'm not religious. I'm not going to go bow down to him or anything like that. And Ganos and him kind of come together, and Ganos has become the master of the deck. And they're both kind of like, yeah, maybe that's the right person to be in these positions, is someone who wants to do this the very least.
Yeah. Yeah, I think something else that stood out to me too, and maybe this is just how I processed it, but how they described themselves as Malazans being a warring empire where they take over a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
That description of, well, what do you get out of it? Well, we make profit. We're in it to make profit, basically. Well, what kind of profit? Any kind. What does your culture have? We want it. You
Right.
know, it reminded me a little bit of for any Star Trek fans out there, a mix of the Ferengi and uh, the warring culture, if anyone can remember the name.
Klingon.
Yes, Klingons. Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, I'm bad. I'm like, I have a
No,
vague
it's good. I was
Star.
just thinking Worf. But yeah, the Ferengi and the Klingons, where the Klingons are very high warrior people and the Ferengi are all about making profit. That combined just reminded me of the Malazans. They will go to war and they will take the profit. They're not going to buy it from you. They're going to take it and they're going to turn it into their own empire, basically. So they just accumulate all of these different cultures for assets, and that perspective, I think, made me not. It made me like the Malazans a little bit better because they're not just in it to gain power per se, but rather they want to incorporate so many different cultures and profits to make their own empire greater. And I mean, Lysine, she might be in it for power. I'm not sure at this point. I feel like she's got a lot of things going on in the background that haven't quite been revealed, and maybe I'm wrong. But for the bridge burners being out there on the front field, so like, yeah, we're going to take everything you have.
Yeah.
That's our job.
Well, and you even have Rake acknowledging, like, because that's what I love about a book that just makes you think, like he's like, a lot of the places they took over in Genebacus, Nathalog. I pulled up a map. That's why I don't know these off the top of my head. And I'm constantly cheating. But even Rake is like acknowledging, like, those used to be like backwater, like trash heaps. And now they're like, people, like even the poorest are doing okay. It's like even kind of acknowledging, yeah, the Malazans take over, but they have left a lot of places in a better way. And so then you're going like, but is that okay? Like and it's just, I'm not, settled on which way is the right way. It's like brings up just a point. And then it's like, oh gosh, I don't know. What is the right way? What is anyway? And it's like, because I don't love what they're doing.
Right. It comes down to that whole cost of how many people are you willing to sacrifice to save X amount of people down the
Right.
line,
Yeah.
right? Are you going to save an entire city for generations after the fact? Or are you going to wipe it out due to invasion or trying to take it over? It's a bit of a moral dilemma, and I don't think there's necessarily a right answer.
And I find sometimes too with the narrative during these bigger battle scenes, occasionally I will lose or not lose it entirely, but occasionally like motivations behind the battle itself get a bit murky when we're in the thick of it. Just in terms of like sometimes I will forget like, why are we in this battle right now? But honestly, sometimes I wonder if that's an intentional feeling, just because that is probably mirrored in a lot of these characters that we're experiencing. Of course, not the decision maker characters, but the characters experiencing this warring empire. They're just caught in it and they're like, why are we doing what we're doing right now? We don't know, but there are so many atrocities happening. And so occasionally, like in those battle scenes, when I lose the motivation of why this battle is happening in the first place, I'm like, well, it's just sometimes it's just meaningless violence that these battles descend to. So yeah, I was like, I struggled with that feeling, but along the way, I've kind of like been okay with that feeling just because I do think it has a weird place in these books.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I like that. And that's maybe, good, I know we're getting to the end of our hour here. I didn't want to keep going too long, but I definitely, what you're saying, what Joanna just said, because that's the thing is I love, and that's part of what I love about fantasy in general and why I read it so much is because I like that it challenges you on this level to think through, where are your morals, right? Where are you at when it comes to the grand scheme of things? What is right? And have that philosophy with a healthy amount of humor and action. I just think this series is one of my one of my questions I wrote down to be annoying, which I didn't expect actual answers for, was why is this the best series of all time?
I'll let you know when I finished it.
But anyway, that's for me it is, and I can leave it at that. Did you guys have anything more? I'll leave the rest for you guys.
Kaylee, did you want to go?
I don't really have anything left except that I'm excited for the next book, although I have no idea if we're going to see recurring people, if we're going to start all over again with a new place. Who knows?
Yeah, I so far I'm really enjoying it. I think Memories of Ice, because like you said, there's just tragedy and all these deep questions being dropped throughout it. There's all these thick battles and scenarios happening with the lore. It feels dense and a lot to process as you're reading. And I can't remember where, but someone had left a comment where they said Steven Erikson's Malazan series taught me how to read big books, taught me how to read deep fantasy books. And I think that's accurate when you compare this to reading like a 1,000-page epic fantasy. How you read it is going to be completely different in comparison to these books. So I think this is kind of, for me, reteaching me how to read that deep set lore and tragic scenarios and all this 20,000 pages.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. This has been a blast. I love talking Malazan anyway, but I've really enjoyed these times just hanging out with you guys and just talking and having a blast. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been so much fun. So anyway, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much. Please, please, please like and subscribe to Kay's Hidden Shelf, to Kaylee's books, maybe to Andrew's Wizardly Reads. You don't have to though. He has bad opinions sometimes. But we are okay with him. Anyway, thank you so much. We'll catch you later. Bye.
Thank you.